The last biomolecule we're going to talk about is nucleic acids. So DNA, RNA, these two, they are the main two. Nucleic acids, they are the building block of DNA and RNA, and their main function is genetic information, store genetic information. So DNA, its main function is store genetic code. It's like the recipe to make the delicious food. But eventually, the function one is the protein. So DNA only carry the genetic information. And they regulate metabolism. So some enzymes are made of nucleic acids, especially RNA. RNA is there's three kinds of RNA. One of them actually work as an enzyme. So DNA is carry genetic information, but not all DNA. Actually, more than 90%, they don't carry genetic information. So the only less than 10% that really carry the genetic information is called genes. Means they can produce protein. So that's called the genes. So genes are used for DNA. And when we look at our DNA, so a lot of pharmaceutical companies, they use rodents when they test new medicine, new drugs. And the reason is rodents and us, we actually have 98% similar DNA. So we can test the drug in mice, in rat, or guinea pig. And for chimp, actually they have close to 98.8% DNA is identical from the human and the chimp. It's more than 98%. So some chimps, actually chimps in the early 20th century, some psychologists suggest some family to adapt chimp. And these chimps grow up in the human's family, and which create a lot of problem because in the first 5 years, their development is exactly the same as babies, human babies. And then the one limit their development is the language, because they don't have the well-developed vocal cord. It turned out the language function being compromised. But they grow up with the human family, and then suddenly when they turn adult, a chimp is 3 times stronger than human. So they become, when they become adult, especially the male, is very dangerous. And then the family abandon them, and then they create a lot of problem. So this FYI, in early 20th century, there are some sad stories about those abandoned chimp, and they create some problem. So if you're interested, you can watch this video. It shows you those, especially in the first 3 years, those human baby, they develop their language, their social observations, and then the last one is the chimp. They found actually very similar. Okay, that's FYI. I won't test you this, but it's fun to look at this. Okay, is Jurassic World real? Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. If you watch this movie, they say they use the DNA, right? The dinosaurs' DNA and use the frogs' DNA to fill the gap, those missing one. So far, no, we won't be able to recreate the dinosaur. Not yet. Okay, another one is called RNA. RNA is single strand. So when you see this is single strand, you know it's RNA. And also one nucleic acid is different. That's the RNA. So that's the RNA sequence. Okay, and RNA is also involved in the whole genetic information transduction from DNA to RNA, eventually to protein, because the whole body is made of protein. We need protein. So it's involved in the protein synthesis. And RNA, very unique. It can function as enzymes. So some enzymes actually RNA. Ribozyme, that's the enzyme. So RNA is a single strand. So the big difference between DNA and RNA, DNA is a double strand, double helix. So DNA is very stable because those weak structure being protected inside. So you find, okay, some people will take the blood, in the crime scene, they can find the DNA, the victim's DNA. because DNA is very stable. RNA is not. RNA is a single strand. And there are three kinds of RNA. The one single strand we're familiar with is actually called the mRNA. M means messenger. It carries the genetic information from DNA directly. But there are two other kind of RNA. They also help to carry the information from the RNA to protein. And this one is called the tRNA. T means transporter, transport. It look like a T because it can carry the amino acid. So these green balls, each one is one amino acid. And we talk about protein. Protein are made of amino acid. So they will carry the correct amino acid here, and they will form the peptide bond and connect it together. So this is amino acid sequence. This is 1D structure of protein. And this 1D structure will be sent to the other organelle inside the cell, and they will be folded to the correct 2D, the alpha helix, beta sheet, and then they will use the 2D to form the correct 3D structure. And some protein need 4D, 5D. So that's the protein synthesis. And then this blue ball is called ribosome. Ribosome, it provides a place for this process to happen. This process is called translation. Translation means from the RNA to protein. And a big part of the ribosome is made of rRNA, ribosomal RNA. So there are totally three kinds of RNA. mRNA is the one we are most familiar with. It directly carries the information from DNA. So it's called the messenger RNA. tRNA, it carries amino acid. So that's tRNA. The third one is called the rRNA. It's part of the ribosome. So ribosomal RNA, three kinds of RNA. And this is the DNA structure. You have a sugar, and you have a phosphate. You have nitrogenous base. So that's the DNA structure. And this base change. So for DNA, there are 4 different bases. A, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. I told my students to remember the first letter because each one is different. So they are called A, T, G, and C. And T, they pair with A. So apparently these A, T, G, and C, each one of them, their sizes are different. So when they form the double helix, they need to have a perfect structure. So the big one need to combine with small one. If you put two big one together, they become too big. And you put two small one together, they become too small. So the big one and the small one need to pair. So it turned out the T pair with A and G pair with C. They just pair together and they form the hydrogen bond. See the dashed line, that's the hydrogen bond to form them together. And RNA are made of A, U, G, and C. So 3 of them, actually, they are the same. The only one difference. So 75% identical. So that's the DNA, that's the RNA. And DNA structures is very hot topic in mid-20th century. There were several groups they try to solve the structure of the DNA. And the most famous one, everyone knows these two persons, right? Watson and Crick, because they identified the DNA structure. They identified the DNA structure. And there's some stories about them. They actually get these pictures from another female scientist. And then they look at this and they create a model, this model. And because of this model, they got Nobel Prize, Watson and Crick. So DNA used to carry the genetic code is stay in the nucleus, is very well protected. And then you use DNA, you split it open, use only one strand to write it down. It's like you go to the library and you have some very precious book, that's DNA, you cannot borrow it out. So all you can do is you take notes. And these notes are the mRNA, mRNA. So mRNA can go through the nucleus pore, this small hole, go out of the nucleus. Like you can carry your notes out of the library. Now the mRNA carry exactly the same information you copy from the DNA. And then you use mRNA And to code amino acid sequence, then of course you need the help of ribosome because ribosome provides the space. So rRNA is part of ribosome. And then you have the tRNA to carry the correct amino acids there and to combine together, become a 1D structure of the amino acid. They form the peptide bond connect together. It's called the amino acid sequence or polypeptide. And then this polypeptide will go to the other organelle, and then they be folded to the correct 2D, 3D structure, or sometimes 4D, and that's the protein. So 3' RNA, mRNA carry the genetic information, tRNA carry amino acid sequence there, and rRNA, it provides the space for translation to happen. So from mRNA to protein, it's called translation. From DNA to mRNA is called transcription. So this whole process, transcription from DNA to mRNA, translation from mRNA to protein. And the last one is called ATP. So ATP is the energy source directly used by every living cell. When you take carb, sugar, or you eat protein, you eat lipid, your body will turn them into ATPs. So ATP is the energy source for living cell. It's called ATP because TP, triphosphate, has 3 phosphate group. So when your cell need to use the energy, they break this phosphate group, this covalent bond, and then the energy being released and being used by your cell. So ATP is the direct energy source for living cell. And ATP, well, this is adenosine. This is base adenosine, and have a sugar, simple sugar, and has a 3 phosphate group. This is called TP. So function is the provide energy for every living cell. So your muscle, your heart muscles, your skeletal muscle, your neurons, every living cell need to use ATP. And they break a bond, and then energy being released to your cell. And now you have the low energy molecule called ADP. D means diphosphate. You only have 2 phosphate. This is the low energy molecule. So when you go to the gym, you exercise, your muscle use a lot of ATP, and then it produce a lot of ADP. And when you are resting, your muscle is not doing nothing. When you are resting, your muscle will turn those ADP back into ATP. So tomorrow you can go to the gym and exercise again. Okay, there's the end of the lecture.